All right, so here's the next part of the video on the Hilliard clutches. We'll get to the hub in a minute, but I wanted to take a moment to look at these. So right here is the used spring, and this is the new spring. This is a black spring. You notice the metal is the same thickness, but you also see how oblong this thing is. This thing is just fatigue worn out. Heat fatigue wears these springs out. That's why it's so important to replace them to keep your clutch working at optimum efficiency. And the same thing, this is a white one, right, where all the paint's come off. You can see a little bit of white paint on it. And this is the new one. And you see how concentric these things are, right? And now how stretched out this one is compared to the other one. So on the hub, we've taken the hub, we've cleaned that off with emery cloth. This thing is ready to go. A little bit of WD-40 on it. It's very important to impregnate this with WD-40 and wipe it off. And then the same thing with these shoes. So it's very important not to use brake cleaner on any of these components whatsoever. The Hilliard and the No Ram share this. Well, the Hilliard, the Flame, the Fire actually has organic material on the shoes, and you do clean that one with brake cleaner. With this one, you don't. You want to make sure to use WD-40 on the hub. These can be dry, or just give them a shot of WD-40 and wipe it off like I have here. You can see they've been deglazed, and these things are ready to go. They're not totally worn out, so that's something, because these are expensive. They're about $8 a piece. So, and again, these are the springs that go with the old ones. And let's grab the old ones here. And these are the new springs, 2 black, 2 white. We're gonna pitch those into the can. And now notice everything else has been cleaned. The bearing has been serviced. I cleaned the old grease out of it, put new grease out of it. I use high temp brake caliper grease. That stuff does not start to run and separate under high temperature. It's generally a synthetic. These 2 spacers, you have to have them. You want to look at them closely and make sure that they aren't worn out if they've spun or anything like that, and they're not thinner. These actually determine your back spacing on the clutch itself. It's absolutely imperative. You have 2 of these. You have your grease. This is your grease slinger. This keeps grease off of the pads. They actually sit on the outside, whichever way it's done. It sits on the outside and slings grease off. That's why it has this little lip right here. That's really hard to clean. Then you have another spacer here. This is the spacer that separates the shoes from the drum. And very, very important to keep that and have these in the right order. We'll go over that in another video. Here's the hub. I've cleaned that off, and as you can see, it's really blued. I mean, it's really, really blue. This thing got really hot. That's why the springs ruined. If you ever get your clutch to a point where it's burning, just replace your springs, if not your shoes as well. But if you ever got it that hot, you have to replace springs. This is hardened steel with a coating on it. And at one point I thought it was bronze, but bronze is just too soft. It wouldn't work for this application. Another thing is it's got this coating on it, and it gets really smooth. You want to make sure this is clean and dry. Do not put any lubrication. I see a lot of people put white lithium grease on this. It's the worst thing you can possibly do, because it's just going to separate and turn into oil, and then the solvents are going to burn off, and the soap is going to burn off. That's the primary component of grease, believe it or not, is soap. And then it just gets all over your shoes and ruins your shoes. Okay, so yes, the shoes are oil impregnated, an excess amount of oil, because eventually that stuff it boils out of the surface, and if you keep on feeding them oil, they'll just slip and slip and slip and overheat and blue. So yeah, it's still serviceable. I mean, this thing's still in good shape. So here's the big thing about the Hilliard that I really love. The No Ram has a key that you have to replace, which is a part of the maintenance on that thing, and the hammering action of these clutches hammers on the keyway. And the problem with the No Ram is the No Ram actually has a 2-piece hub, and it gets that key here. In this case, it's integrated, but this key in the No Ram clutches, all the way from the GE clutches to the Stinger and the Premier, they go sideways, and it hammers because they're soft. it hammers that thing sideways. This will never hammer sideways. This will never damage your keyway. That's what the primary reason why I like Hilliard. And I've been running Hilliard for a very long time, and I've never damaged a keyway with a Hilliard clutch. I've damaged plenty of keyways, or experienced lots of damaged keyways with the no ram platform. So that's why I'm such a big fan of Hilliard. I really love this hub design. Found out it was hardened steel. I'm going to make this one is off of a fire that I retired, and this one's going to become a crank holder tool for the LO206 or Tillotson, because it's the same shaft. It'll fit the same shaft. So good stuff right there. But this is where I figured out it was hardened steel, because I ran a high-speed steel mill across it, and it didn't cut it at all. It just dulled the mill out. So I need the carbide mill to do that. So oops, whatever, is what it is. So there you are, the components of the clutch. I'm going to assemble all this stuff, and I'll go over the installation in just a second.